How can I focus on the fewest things possible and do them very well? Yeah, and then there's one of those things where it's like, do I just pretend like I got it? And since he will probably never follow up and like ask where it went, like I am literally tending to my children while working out, while working, while being with my wife, all at the same time equally. But when you have like 3 to 5 things on a note card in front of you, like, and then by the end of the day, when a majority of those have been crossed off, it's like, oh, this is evidence that I got like real work done today. Flexibility can be great if you set the boundaries, but it's not by default a good thing. I have an evergreen newsletter that is like a year's worth of content. And at the end of it, it says, hey, I just sent you my best content for the past year. I'm going to go ahead and actually just start at the beginning and resend it to you. Unless you'd rather not get it, you can click unsubscribe here.
Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to the Solo Sauce podcast. My name is Joeri, and on this show, I have honest conversations with people who work for themselves, sharing stories, sharing lessons, and maybe we give you some ideas that you can take forward on your own solo journey. Today's episode, I am joined by social media content specialist Thom Gibson, who is the founder of Work From Home Dads. We talk about building a niche around work from home dads or work from home parents, stopping the nights and weekends work cycle, and designing a life where work and family can actually healthily coexist. I'll be back with some thoughts at the end, but for now, enjoy my conversation with Thom Gibson.
I am Thom Gibson. I am the founder of Work From Home Dads, where I'm helping other dads who have remote jobs, other ambitious dads who have remote jobs, stop working nights and weekends without sacrificing their career. I also work from home full-time as a social media content specialist at a cybersecurity company called Huntress.
How did you end up in cybersecurity? Because I know a bit of your path. You and I met during a Pat Flynn's community.
When we had connected, I was actually still a classroom teacher and I was building a creator business on the side. I ended up leaving teaching at the end of 2021 to co-found a startup with another teacher turned YouTuber creator. And so it was me, him, and his brother. And we started up a new ed tech classroom, which was training teachers on how to leverage technology in the classroom. And it was, YouTube videos, online courses, cohorts, online community, newsletters, the whole creator thing. But that was like my first venture into working from home. Because I was like, oh, I could do this creator thing. I can we just had our daughter and we weren't really ready to send her to daycare. So, I could stay home. My wife's a pediatrician. So we couldn't, we would have loved for her to stay home, but we just, we couldn't give up the pediatrician salary and just keep the teacher salary. Well, let me just, I'll be able to kind of go down this creator path and co-found this thing. So I did that for a year and a half, but we ran out of money because we were selling to teachers who don't have disposable income and, tried selling to schools and they had such long sales cycles. It just didn't end up working out. So I ended up getting a role as a social media strategist, social media and YouTube strategist at Kit, formerly known as ConvertKit, the email marketing company. And so learned even more about, the creator path and learning how to do social media and YouTube for a B2B company. I'd always been doing it just for myself or like these B2C kind of environments. And so this was like the first time I was like working for like an actual bigger corporation. And even though Kit's not huge, they had like 75 people when I joined.
Quick one. If you are enjoying this episode, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like, leave a comment, or share this episode with somebody could really use it because there's some gold dust in there. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So I worked there for a couple years, almost 2 years, and ended up getting laid off in the middle of 2025. And then, just really took my time as I was like trying to find my next thing because I don't want to just jump into the first thing that comes my way. I had contractor opportunities where companies were like, "Hey, could you help us with our YouTube channel?" But I was like, "No, I want a full-time job," and because I'd like rather have that and then be able to build Work From Home Dads on the side and just not have to like try to manage, making both of those things kinds of work. And so I found Huntress because I saw that they had a social media content specialist role. They were looking for someone who understood content and video content and someone who could also teach their team how to make their own short form videos for LinkedIn. Apparently Huntress in the cybersecurity world, everyone that works in cybersecurity like wants to work at Huntress. And so I hadn't even heard of them when I landed here. And it's just like, this is like it's a good place. It's a good spot. I'm doing all this work from home dad stuff. I'm also doing this as a working full time and doing the creator thing and, raising kids and investing in the marriage and everything like that. Yeah, didn't think I was ever going to leave teaching, but as we said, there's always those windy paths.
And the nice thing is that it seems to be the best of all your worlds together. So you get to use a bit of how adults learn or how kids learn. I hope in Huntress it's adults. I'm sure you work with adults. It is working from home. It's very meta because you are your own audience as well in a way.
Yeah. It's always been kind of like that. When I was teaching and doing the YouTube stuff for teachers, I was creating content for people like myself. Teachers that were wanting to do interesting and creative things in the classroom. Now I'm like, let me speak to work from home dads because I know that I've been a work from home dad since really the start of the pandemic. And for me, it was I can either be like the guy who talks about work from home dads, or I can try to compete in the B2B social media marketing space, which is so saturated. And I felt work from home dads is an underserved niche. It's a target demographic that has money because particularly now, a lot of people are becoming parents later in life. And so if they work from home, they probably work in tech or finance or their own, entrepreneur, solo creator. If I speak to a specific person, it helps me think, okay, what are the different problems that they have? The core of it is a lot of like time management stuff. I can talk about my relationship with my kids and how I foster that. I can talk about my relationship with my wife. How do you get on the same page with your partner? I can talk about my home office setup, all the tech stuff and the lighting and the cameras and stuff. I can talk about how I make time to exercise, because I'm not fitness influencer by any means, but exercise and being active and mobile, it's very important to me and I prioritize it every day. I felt that like speaking to this one person would allow me to talk to a bunch of different, speak to a bunch of different content areas, but still have a through line. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I want to talk about all the things that interest me and make content about all the things that interest me. And then it ends up being like, who are you for? Even when I was like, before I really focused on my teacher niche, I was like, I'm making videos about how to film with a Canon T3i. I'm making videos about how to be a math teacher. I'm making videos about my slow carb diet. I'm travel vlogs, and I was just doing it for fun, but it was kind of like you can't really build a business that way if you don't have a specific person that you're trying to talk to and a specific problem that you're trying to solve. So that's why I kind of like focused on the work from home dads thing. I could speak to it from authority because I am in that target demographic, and it would let me actually talk about a lot of different things, and I wouldn't have to be like, all I can really talk about is this one thing, because that's what the business is all about.
I've been having conversations recently with people about just that, about niching down, and what I was talking about the other day with somebody. If you look at whoever your biggest creator is, most likely they started in a very specific area. Take Hormozy. Hormozy didn't start talking about business and life and how to be an entrepreneur. He's a fitness guy. And then he bought a gym and he bought another gym. And all of a sudden he's a business owner. Then he starts talking about being a business owner. Then he starts talking about skill because now he's got 50 gyms. I don't know how many he had. But a lot of people start on the broad side. They're like, that's talking about life. It's incredibly hard. So if you can carve out a little niche, you can give a bit of a twist to it. I really like that. And I think that's where more people should play. I think too many people are too general.
Yeah. My goal was like when someone saw my content, they would feel like, whoa, this is exactly for me. Such a specific person, because there's even dad businesses. I'm helping dads be better dads. That's still like super broad. I know a guy who he helps and serves like divorced dads. How do you manage co-parenting and still keeping that, relationship with your kids, and, managing what the relationship with their other parent is like? A very specific focus. My original tagline and the original value prop was helping you be more productive in your work so you can be more present with your family, which was not bad. And then it kind of evolved into helping you work smarter so you can show up stronger for your family. Again, not bad, but I recently went through a cohort with Jay Klaus on like creating a signature product. I was kind of testing out all these different taglines. What's the pain? What's the thing that the work from home dad like really feels? And for a lot of them, I think it's just working nights and weekends. It clearly communicates like, okay, this is about time management and productivity in some capacity. When I say like helping ambitious work from home dads stop working nights and weekends, but then in parentheses, without sacrificing your career, because it's not, yeah, it'd be great to stop working nights and weekends, but what's going to happen to my career? Well, there's ways that you could still excel, you can still do well, you can still crush it at work, but not have to like burn the midnight oil. I think people felt that pain more than they feel the desire to want to be present or want to be show up stronger, because that what does that actually mean? What's like if I could get rid of that, that'd be great kind of thing.
Is that worse in the US? Because us Europeans always laugh that Americans have no work-life balance. It's all work. You've seen the meme where it's like American out of office is just getting my kidney removed. I'll be back in an hour. And the European is like, oh, I'm on a summer break. I'll see you in 8 weeks.
It definitely is. I think there's definitely a lot of workaholism. Even at KIT, I remember one of our colleagues who is in Spain. KIT had a 4-week sabbatical every 5 years that you were at the company. And one of the guys from Spain is like, I don't know why we aren't doing this every 2 years or every year. Our American counterparts, the leadership were like, really? What? Just go. What are you going to do? I think a lot of Americans, they're going in fifth gear the whole time, or even if it's like this idea of like downtime, if you take a car in fifth gear and try to just shove it into first, you're going to stall out really hard. And I think that happens to a lot of people where it's like, I don't know what to do with my time. I'm so busy to go, 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 go. Even if they are given a moment of reprieve, there's guilt around it, or there feels like there's something wrong. Like, I don't even know what to do with this time. I feel like I'm wasting time. Chris Guillebeau, who's written a lot about the side hustle culture and like building a side hustle and everything, he has a recent book that I haven't gotten to read yet, but I love the title of it because I feel it captures so much of what Americans in particular feel. It's called time anxiety of feeling like I need to be utilizing and optimizing my time all the time. And I've gotten on calls with other dads, and particularly the ones that are solopreneurs or creators. They feel like if I'm not working, then that means I'm not doing something to generate more money. Every hour that I'm not working is an hour that I could be doing something that could be generating income for me and for my family. And particularly if they're not at a place where they're comfortable financially and it's still like month to month, there's that guilt of like, I don't deserve to relax. I don't deserve to take a break right now because I need to make sure that these things are done. And not realizing like a lot of times, like when your brain needs that space anyways, be productive to creatively think through problems and things like that. So I definitely think it's an American thing. There's definitely a workaholism just in our culture as a whole.
Why don't you focus on work from home dads? Have you ever gotten the pushback by angry people saying, why don't you focus on parents?
No, I've had people suggest it as like a way of like broadening the audience a little bit. And I do get other work from home moms like, no, I'm not a dad. I just want to say I work from me and my husband work from home. And this is really great because I'm going to be doing a lot of coaching and one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. I would like to be able to speak more to men, just because like that's my lived experience, and just being a married man, and just knowing what that feels like. Not only just thinking like what that feels like culturally as well. Like what does a culture expect from men versus what it may expect from women, and there's the different cultural narratives there. I defined it, one, because work from home dads is a little bit shorter, and then work from home parents, which is a little bit nicer. But outside of like even this business, for years, it's just I've always made it a priority to be in men's groups, usually through my church, other men that are either older than me. Now I'm at a point where I'm mentoring younger men than me, having a space where men can come together and speak among other men about the things that they're growing through and experiencing and processing. It's been very valuable in my life. And so I thought with this business, not only do I want to work with other dads, but if I build a community, I want it to be a place where like other dads connecting with other dads about the things that come and the problems that they encounter from working from home and being a parent and being a partner and things of that sort.
And what's the challenge you help them with? I mean, I could see a bunch of challenges. We've talked about a couple already. And what are the challenges that you really help them with?
The biggest ones is really learning how to manage their space and their time well. I find that I was interacting and emailing back and forth with one dad. He was saying like he's like I feel like I work from home, and so since I work from home, I should be with the family and available because I've got that flexibility and that freedom. And so he would work at the kitchen table most of the time, also because he had an office, but they had another kid, and so that became the kid's room. He feels like he's doing both things poorly. I get agitated when my kids are trying to like talk to me because I'm trying to focus on something with work, but then I feel guilty when I'm working on something because, the kids want me to play. And I told him, I was like, it's okay to create those boundaries. And I even asked him, is there a way you can create a physical boundary? Is there another place in your house that you can work? And he's like, well, I've got the attic, but it's pretty junky up there. And it's been on my to-do list to clean it up because it could serve as an office. That sounds like it'd be really great because you're out of sight, out of mind from the family. Okay, dad's not even around. So he's working, he's focusing on that. He's prioritizing that. It was like a week and a half later, he's like, hey, like from our conversation, it kind of gave me the push to actually clean up the office. And like he sent me or clean up the attic. He sent me a before picture and an after picture, and creating that physical space, but then also creating that time boundary. I think with a lot of dads all day, they're kind of working or kind of at home. And then even if there is free time, they feel like they should fill it with work, as opposed to like, I have designated work hours. I am working from 9 a.m. to p.m. or maybe 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then I'm going to watch the kids while my wife or my partner gets some time to their self. And then I'm going to work from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And I talk about like, how do you have that conversation with your partner? So that way you guys are on the same page, because a lot of times the partner's like, hey, can you come help out with this? And it's have the conversation. Unless the house is burning down, this is my work time. And I'm going to do the same for you. When I'm watching the kids and you want your time to do your yoga in the garage or work out or hang out with your friends, Audrey's complaining about this thing. Can you take care of, I am going to take care of it, unless the house is burning down. Having those conversations, having those boundaries, having those physical boundaries, having those time boundaries, because there's all these incredible downstream effects when you do that. Because now when I've only got these windows of time to work, well, now I can't just goof around and just keep going to check email. I can keep going to check Slack. I got to make sure like my stuff gets done, because I don't have all day. I can't just let the work fill up the whole day. I have to prioritize and say, okay, if I get 1 or 2 or 3 things done today, what's the first few things that I'm going to get done? And so a lot of my work is around like creating those boundaries, having those conversations with their family members, learning how to prioritize and set up a plan for the week. And then from that plan from the week, how do you prioritize like what your daily most important things are going to be? Like one of the main things that I talk about, I'm holding up for the audio listeners, I'm holding up a little note card right now that just has like 5 main things that I need to get done today. And I've got it in my digital task manager and everything like that. When I have a physical card right here and I write it, it just is this thing that stays in front of me all day, like focus on these things. And then to physically check it off and cross it out is like super satisfying. So that is a bulk of the problems that I work with other dads. How do you optimize your home office so that it's as productive as possible? I have a video coming out soon that talks about, my whole office setup. I talk about like my Stream Deck, and how I can speed things up that I do on my computer repeatedly by pushing a button on this little device that I can program to do anything. And I've got lights in my office, and I've programmed all of those to be connected to smart devices. So that way I can just tell my Google Home to turn the lights on or turn the lights off. What are all the ways that you can kind of like streamline things in your daily life, from your home office to your schedule to whatever it may be? But that's the majority of where I spend my time. And in my newsletter, I also reflect on like, here's what I'm learning about trying to be more present with my kids, and here's what I'm learning about trying to prioritize my relationship with my wife and not go into that relationship with the same intentionality that I go into my work life or my business life or my fitness life, and just all those other things about that surround being a dad and a partner and working from home.
So you can optimize your desk and your tasks and your cue cards and your calendar. How do you optimize a 5-year-old child that wants your attention?
Yeah, you can do a few things. And there's some of it will work and some of it won't. And one of the things that I learned early on, because my daughter, thankfully she's in school now. Both my kids, my son's in a Montessori school, and my daughter's in kindergarten at a charter school. And so I've structured my day so that like all my work can happen when they're at school. But whenever she's not at school or before she was at school, one of the things that I found, like whenever she would do rest time, I'm like, okay, this is like my time to work. If she wasn't actually taking a nap, we would say, okay, you got to stay in your room. It's your rest time, so you can read and you can play with your toys or whatever it is. But little kids have a hard time understanding like when rest time's over. You could just be like, it's going to be over in 1 hour or 45 minutes or whatever. And that means nothing to them. And she would just keep coming downstairs. It's like, no, you need to stay upstairs. We got this little clock called a time timer. And you basically can, set it and it fills up with red if you fill it up for the whole hour. And then by the end of the hour, it's all gone. And it's like, it's all white. And so like once I started putting that in her room, she had that visual cue of like how much time is left, and she left her room a little bit less. So it wasn't a complete, situation where she just didn't get out, but at least she knew. I know a lot of dads, myself included, there will be times where the kids are just knocking on your office door and just be like, Daddy, I want this help. I want this. The conversations with my wife help with that in the sense of she knows I'm working. And if she's watching the kids, she'll be like, come here, Audrey. And she'll either take her upstairs, take the kids upstairs, take them outside or whatever. Sometimes that is just what happens. Your kid comes up and you've done all the things. You've got a separate workspace. You've communicated with your partner. You've closed the door. You've got all the visual cues. And sometimes your kid just wants to play. And so I think as dads, sometimes I think we can be a little bit more, I can be a little bit more open-handed with those moments and not just be like, now's my work time. No, sometimes I will tell her, look, Audrey, I'm going to be working till 11 this morning and then we're going to have lunch together. But if you keep coming in here, it's going to slow me down. I'm not going to be able to get out of here by 11. Okay. So, you need to stay out and keep the door closed. Okay. And then we can go play when I come out. A 5-year-old understands that. A 3-year-old does not understand that. And then other times I may just look at what I'm doing and ask myself, is this something that can be done a little bit later? And can I give my daughter 10, 15, 20 minutes just to go play and then just go play? I think as a work from home dad, you have to have that flexibility, not so much to the point where you're not getting anything done and you're not you feel like you're not parenting well and you're not working well, but sometimes it's just like, just put the work down and just go spend some time with the kids.
I don't have any kids. I have a cat walking around here somewhere. I'm already struggling to get stuff done in a day. And that's, you got to balance a lot more. It's a bit of an assumption, but you probably have to balance a lot more with kids around. You have 2 kids, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
2 children.
Yep.
You have a partner. You talked about sports. You work from home. You create content. You work in the business. How do you balance that for yourself?
Trade-offs. I have to understand that I can't do all of it. A couple of examples of what this looks like. So I would love to do YouTube. I would love to be posting on LinkedIn every day. I would love to be doing these short form videos on Instagram that I think I've already got drafts of ideas of what could work, I think. And I would love to, be running a online community for other dads while also coaching. And I know that I can't do all of that really well. I mean, when me and you were in Pat Flynn's community, I'm like, he had several people running the community full time. It's not easy to kind of keep people engaged in those types of communities. So community, unless I've got like a lot of people that are willing to say like, yeah, I want to do this, that's not something I think I need to take on right now. Instagram short form video, that's not something I want to take on right now, because even though I think I could get some impressions, I think YouTube is a higher leverage asset that can continue working for me much longer and beyond the time that I post it. Whereas like an Instagram reel has got like a shelf life of like a few days maybe. So I've decided like I am not going to do that. And then even with the newsletter, I try to write a newsletter every week, but I've set up a system where basically every time I get a new subscriber, they join an automated evergreen newsletter. And there's a new one that comes out every 2 weeks if they start at the first one. And it's basically every newsletter that I've written is a part of this evergreen newsletter. And then whenever I do write one, I pause that one and I send the new one out, to everybody. And so it just gives me that flexibility where I don't have to have something every week. And so that's like for the business side of things, like I've intentionally decided not to do a lot of things that I would like to do because I know I don't have the time. And then even for like the fitness side of things, I was thinking through, what do I want, some of my goals for this year to be. Me and you both do jujitsu. And I was like, okay, I want to continue going to jujitsu twice a week. I don't think any more than that would really be feasible at the expense. I would have to cut something else out, because like what I wanted to do was, I would love to do jujitsu. And I also love to run, and I like to run several days a week. And I also realized I haven't done any strength training in years, like any just lifting weights. I wanted this year was like, I would like to start lifting, doing some kettlebell exercises and routines. And as I was looking at it, I can't go to jujitsu twice a week, run 4 times a week, and do kettlebells 3 times a week while also adding mobility in there. I can't do all of this. So I basically was like, okay, for the first time in several years, I've decided to deprioritize running, because running's been my favorite thing. Sometimes I'll run with the kids in the stroller. It's my time where I can listen to podcasts, or even sometimes if I'm on a meeting with work where I don't have to be on camera, or I'm not in a breakout room, I'll just put it on Zoom and just listen on my phone and go for a run. But I decided, I was like, okay, if I really want to add in, lifting weights, I could probably go run twice a week, one 4 to 5 mile run, and then one like high interval training sprinting kind of run. And I had to actually look like, okay, like on a weekly calendar, on a perfect week, what would this look like? Okay, well, running would happen on these days, and jujitsu would happen on these days, and weight training would have to happen on these days. And if I have to drop one of them, it would have to be this. I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it all. It's been these trade-offs, what I can actually do, and creating the boundaries around my time. I think time blocking has been really helpful for me, because for me, I wake up around 5 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed by 9:30. So I usually get, 7 hours of sleep. And according to my Aura ring, it says I'm doing great. So I wake up and, after, I spend time reading my Bible and praying, and I sit down at my computer. That first hour of the day, I am working on work from home dad stuff, and I have a to-do list of like, that's in order of priority. And right now it's like, I have 5 videos that I've created. I've filmed. I have done the titles and thumbnails, the first 5 videos for my YouTube channel, and I just need to finish editing them. And so as I'm going through, I'm creating systems and processes, and trying to streamline the workflow so that every future video is going to be, a little bit faster. But that is the priority right now. I want to send out an email right now to be like, hey, I'm opening up a couple spots to do some coaching. Let me just finish this first, and then send out the email and start looking through, like start meeting with other guys about the coaching and taking on clients and things like that. I have this 1 hour in the morning that I'm really working on it. And sometimes, after I drop the kids off, like this right now, doing a podcast interview in the morning. But then I know, okay, so 30 to 11, I'm working, and I've prioritized what I'm doing with work. And then depending on what my day looks like as far as meetings, maybe I'll go on a run while I'm listening to a meeting, or maybe I'll go in my garage and do my kettlebell workout during, the free hour that I have in the middle of the day. Or maybe I'll go to jujitsu, my jujitsu class on a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning. And so I kind of look at all that at the beginning of the week. And then I know at 4 o'clock, when my wife gets home with the 2 kids, that all that stops. I'm done. Like that is my cutoff time. She gets home. She's been working. She just drove around town to pick up both the kids and bring them home. Now it's her time. I take the kids. We go ride bikes. We go hang out in the backyard, whatever it is. And then at 5 o'clock, I start making dinner, and then we do bedtime afterwards. And then me and my wife sit down at 7:30. And most nights we're just reading. She'll read. She reads. I'll might be reading newsletters on my iPad or whatever. And on the weekends, we'll watch shows together, and I'm in bed by 9:15, 9:30. And so a lot of it is understanding the trade-offs, making a plan for like when I am working on certain things during the day and during the week. And that's how I do it. And that's how I focus it. And I have to make sure a lot of it's like on a calendar so I can see it all. That's how I balance it. And there's this whole like thing in the productivity space where there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's intentional imbalance. It's all semantics. This is the right work-life balance. That doesn't mean I am literally tending to my children while working out, while working, while being with my wife, all at the same time equally. I feel that they are in balance. I am devoting the amount of time that I want to the different domains of my life. And I don't feel that, when I start seeing that like things are in balance to me, when I realize I haven't really invested any time with my kids, or I haven't really, planned a date night with my wife, or I haven't exercised in 4 days. That's when I start feeling like there's imbalance because I'm not devoting the time that I want or that I intended to the different domains of my life. And so that's what work-life balance looks like for me.
Love it. I love that you said you got to make trade offs. I think as Thomas Sowell says that there are no solutions, there are only trade offs. It's absolutely true. I think one of the easiest ways to take off the pressure if people feel overwhelmed is to just assume you probably have too much on your plate, and then plates start falling at some point.
Yeah, and even candidly, when I joined Huntress, I went into it thinking through, okay, how can I focus on the fewest things possible and do them very well? Because I think my tendency, particularly joining a new company, I want to volunteer. I want to show that I'm helpful. I want to show that I'm a team player. I want to do all of these things, and then that becomes the norm. Tom doing all of these things becomes what's like the norm and what's expected. What if I got hired for a specific thing to do a specific role to generate specific outcomes? What if I only focused on those things and really tried to do them well? It's been helpful. My recent meeting with my boss, I'm like ahead of schedule, for my, 90-day where we wanted me to be at and what I would be working on by day 90 at the company. And that's from like working fewer hours than I was working at KIT. I'm not working nights. I'm not working weekends. I'm just the time that I am working, I am trying to focus, strip away like as much as the unessential things. How can I focus on what is essential to this role and like deliver on that?
Making choices, you can't do everything. And I'm the same as you. If I step into any role, I'm like, oh, I see opportunities here. I can help them here. I can also coach people there. My wife hates it when I do that. She's like, just do that one thing. Just focus. Don't take on everything. Do you have any tools or apps or anything that you use that help you with this, that help you, I guess, create that bit of balance and sanity in your life?
Yeah, me and my wife, we kind of sync up every Sunday on like what the week's going to look like. So that's kind of a big aspect of it. We have some dry erase calendars on the fridge. She really loves like the tactical, being able to write out what's happening throughout the week and who's got appointments. Hey, are you going to be picking the kids up this day? Or I've actually got a meeting later in the day, which I don't normally have. We try to make sure we're on the same page with everything because like whenever you go into the week and you both have different expectations, someone's expectations are not met. It's just a recipe for conflict and resentment. But we have that conversation. So having that calendar really helps out. I've got a work computer and a personal computer. And given that I work at a cybersecurity company, they're like super particular about the apps that you can install on your work computer. And so like I love like the Things app for like my own like personal to-do list. It's just called Things 3. It's a really clean interface, but I couldn't download it on my work computer. And so like I'm just using like Google Tasks as like my work computer, and I have it basically set up to like top priorities, medium priorities, and low priorities. And every week I kind of revisit that and see if anything needs to be shifted around or added to it after like looking through Slack and my email and my project manager. And then on my personal computer, I use Things, and that's where it's like prioritized by here's what I'm working on for work from home dads. Here's a couple things that I need to take care of around the house. But I will say like one of the biggest helps, at least from the home front side of things, I have always such good intentions to help out around the house and, help out my wife with certain things. And I just forget so many times. She'll start a load of laundry before she leaves for work. She's like, can you get that laundry later and just put it in the dryer? And then I'm like, yeah, no problem. And then I completely forget about it. And it's just been sitting in the washer for like 8 hours. And she comes home and then she has to do it. I'm like, and I've been home all day. So you can imagine how frustrating that is for her. So like I now just religiously set reminders with Apple reminders via my Apple Watch. Hey Siri, remind me in 47 minutes to go change out the laundry. Hey Siri, remind me on February 20th to set up a date night for March 20th because the reservation opens up exactly a month ahead. Hey Siri, remind me Friday morning to grab Thomas's pizza money at 7:32 a.m., which is like, I have set so many reminders. And I think that's probably like, it's mainly for like stuff around the house and remembering to do little things here and there. And as far as like the work stuff, the business stuff, those task lists generally help me out quite a bit. I have a single monitor, which also helps with focus. It's kind of like single monitor, single focus. I don't have like one monitor and then like another one where it's Slack or my email, Spotify or whatever. Those are some of the things that kind of help, maintain the tools, the apps help me maintain focus and things to stay on task and get the things done when I want them to get done.
I'm sure people are listening to this going like, man, I wish I was that productive. I think a lot of people want that productivity and productivity hacks. I think it is something you can totally learn and make use of the tools you have available, which for me is honestly pieces of paper. For somebody else, it might be a smartwatch.
I still think it's super valuable to physically write out what I'm going to be working on that day, because what ends up happening is when you go to that to-do list that has all the things you need to do, it's just like this overwhelming amount of stuff. Every time you finish something, you're just reminded of all the other things that are not done yet. But when you have 3 to 5 things on a note card in front of you, and then by the end of the day, when a majority of those have been crossed off, this is evidence that I got like real work done today, as opposed to like you check the things off and then they disappeared from your to-do list. And then you're just like left with, look at all the things that I still have not accomplished today. It's very defeating. It's like, and then you almost feel like the pressure, like I got to make a bigger dent in this thing. I got to work weekends. So yeah, big +1 to the physical note cards.
Yeah. And learning to prioritize, because if you're in a job, somebody might do it for you. If you work for yourself, you need to every morning need to decide what you're going to focus on every week, every month, whatever you want to call that. You talked a bit about social media, using social media. You said, I'm not going to invest time in shorts right now. You have a newsletter, you create video content. How are you using social media right now? What are you putting your energy in?
When I got laid off, I was putting a lot more energy into YouTube or into LinkedIn because I was kind of showing, I was talking about the work from home dad stuff, but I was also talking about what I was doing as a social media and a YouTube strategist, which I do want to get back to. I do see LinkedIn as a good place to work in public and serve. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to my career in this industry, even though I don't plan on leaving Huntress, but it's always good to dig the well before you're thirsty, so to speak, and build up that network and showcase your expertise. But I've let my foot off the gas quite a bit off of LinkedIn, so that way I can focus on YouTube. I've seen YouTube work like exceptionally well in the past for growing an audience and with evergreen content. The interesting thing about like my old YouTube channel that was targeted towards teachers, I posted my last video there at the end of 2021, and it was like, I'm leaving teaching, but I'm going to be joining the startup, and you can go find me on this startup's YouTube channel. But there are still some evergreen videos that just continually get views. One of them has over 500,000 views. It's on classroom management, which is one of the biggest pain points for teachers. So I saw that, and that main video is like a call to action to get a lead magnet for, a newsletter. And so with that, I ended up optimizing the channel where the only thing you really see are the classroom management videos when you first get to the channel. And that channel had 11,000 subscribers when I stopped posting. It has 45,000 subscribers right now, and that's without any activity except replying to some comments. The newsletter has 7,000 subscribers. I don't write a new newsletter, but I have an evergreen newsletter that is a year's worth of content. And at the end of it, it says, hey, I just sent you my best content for the past year. I'm going to go ahead and actually just start at the beginning and resend it to you. Unless you'd rather not get it, you can click unsubscribe here. It's this continual loop, and I'm being very candid. So people are not like, well, he's already sent me this. They're like, oh, thank you so much. There was a lot of things this year that I wanted to try that I didn't get to, that I'm like really excited that maybe this next year I'll be able to try it. And then every single newsletter at the bottom, it's promoting this online course for $47. And so it's continually pitching that product. I barely have any hands on it anymore. And so YouTube is the driver of that. Most of that, the subscribers and the engagement and all that has come from people who found me on YouTube. Okay, I've already seen YouTube work. Granted, I had started earlier, and like there was a little less competition when I was doing YouTube back in the late 2010s. But I feel like YouTube is my competitive advantage since I've done it, because as you know, YouTube is very hard to do well. I can either play in the short form game, which I think I can do well, or I can go onto YouTube where I think there's fewer people doing it well and see, and it's got a longer shelf life, and it's a piece of long form content that develops connections and relationships with the viewers that are a lot more likely to be like, yeah, I would love to like work with you, Thom. I'd love to be a part of your coaching program, and kind of get this whole work from home dad thing, dialed in, much more so than I think short form can drive. And so the only other short form platform that I'm relatively active on is Threads, Instagram Threads, which everyone I talk to is like, people are on Threads. Surprisingly, like there are. But the funny thing is, I don't schedule out content there. I will open up threads and it does a very good job of surfacing relative content based on what I've engaged with before. So there's a lot of stuff about work from home and parenting and all sorts of stuff. But I'll notice certain trends happening on threads. Recent one was if you're a insert target demographic and you struggle with problem, I pray you find this account. And for whatever reason, those posts just take off like crazy. And if you're a work from home dad who wishes he could stop working nights and weekends, I pray you find this account. And hundreds of thousands of impressions and dozens, and can't remember if it had over 100 comments or something like that. They're like, I'm here. What next? And I just went through and I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep posting here on threads. But if you want, if you're the newsletter reading type, I've got a newsletter. And then I just link to my newsletter and all those replies. I've done that a couple times over the last year, and those have been the biggest spikes in my newsletter signups, and people actually end up staying around, and like becoming engaged subscribers. And so threads, I feel like if there's a low lift opportunity where I just see some trend of like that I could say, if you're a work from home dad and you struggle with this problem where I can share, this is what I talk about, I'll do it. And it can have quite an outsized return on newsletter growth in ways that I just haven't seen, at least on LinkedIn. Even if a post does really well, I just haven't seen it drive as many newsletter conversions. And so we'll see how YouTube does. My hope is that I'm uploading with 5 videos, and every video is basically saying the classic, now that you've got this, the next thing that you have to understand is this. So check out this video. But I arranged it so that no matter where you fall in on one of those 5 videos, it basically will create a big loop, so none of them are pointing to the same video. They're all pointing to the next video. That's going to be the first playlist on my channel. And my hope is that even if one of those takes off, in every single video, I have a subtle like, oh, by the way, this is what I actually do to kind of maintain a 6-hour workday. And if you're interested in that, I've got a playbook that's free, top link in the description. A real subtle one where the main call to action at the end is to watch another video just to kind of get more of like algorithmic favor. My hope is that those videos don't just all plateau at like 82 views and then just stop. If one of these videos takes off, it will feed the others. And hopefully that will lead to newsletter growth as well. So that's kind of like the extent of what I'm doing. It's like threads, YouTube, threads. I want to get back into LinkedIn just for my professional career for the most part, while also kind of repurposing the work from home dad stuff. But yeah, YouTube and threads are probably my primary. Both of those places, I can be Thom, the work from home dad guy. Whereas on LinkedIn, it's a little bit bigger. Yeah, Thom talks about working from home, but he also talks about social media strategy and YouTube strategy and so it's a little bit less focused on one specific core demographic. Whereas those other two, I can just be like, you may not even know that I'm a social media strategist or whatever, unless you like read, watch a video or something where I talk about it on YouTube. So it helps out algorithmically that the algorithms can kind of put me in this bucket of like, Thom creates content for work from home dads. Let me surface it to them.
I love how you also summarize very well. You just gave us really good insights and ideas. And you summarize it beautifully. Where does that come from? Did you learn it as a teacher? Is that your YouTuber, or what is that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I I remember being, a podcast host, and you always kind of hope that your guest will just wrap everything up in a nice little bow of like, here's everything that I just said, synthesize. And so I think creating content for years has helped me think through that skill. Because a lot of times if I was making a YouTube video that wasn't like super scripted, I may just ramble for a little bit, but then I'm like, let me just bring that all together into like one cohesive thought to kind of communicate that, okay, this is the end. But yeah, I think teaching has also developed that skill where I had to teach children to learn math against their will. So I had to find ways to make it as accessible as possible to them.
Without physically coercing them.
Yeah.
Thom, we've got a lightning round just for you. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready for the lightning round, Joeri.
The lightning round.
Scripted or improvised?
Slightly scripted. Scripted hook and call to action, outlined middle.
Early morning or late night?
Definitely early morning.
What is a movie you always recommend people?
A Dumb and Dumber, just so they can they do all the inside jokes with me. I hate goodbyes. Our pets' heads are falling off.
I think that's a great movie, Oscar winning. Home office or kitchen table?
Oh, home office, 1,000%.
Best car you've ever driven? Not owned, driven.
The first thing that comes to mind is a Jeep that I drove in Hawaii, which was kind of fun. I don't know if it's the best, but that's what comes to mind.
Fair enough. Homeschooling or traditional schools?
Ooh, charter schools, Montessori schools. So, yeah, if you have the capacity to homeschool and you like it and it's a good fit for the kids, then I think that's a good option. But charter schools or Montessori schools, I think, are the way.
If we were to ask your kids what it is that you do, they would say,
Works on the computer in his office. Maybe makes videos. My daughter has watched me make a video because she came downstairs early one time, and I was like, "You can sit right there and watch me make this video."
podcast or video?
Video.
Best work from home productivity hack?
Write your to-do list on a Post-it every morning that's prioritized from most important to least important.
Finish the sentence. Teachers of the future
Are leveraging AI.
What is one thing people don't understand about work from home dads?
That flexibility can be great if you set the boundaries, but it's not by default a good thing.
Bonus question just for you. Armbar or triangle choke?
I triangle jerk only because I really struggle to finish the armbar most of the time.
Nice. What's next for you, Thom?
Well, I'm going to launch this YouTube channel, take on a couple coaching clients once that is up and going, really kind of figuring out and how to support other dads, and continuing to work at Huntress as their social media content specialist, learning about cybersecurity along the way because I am new to the industry.
Nice. And where can people find you?
They can sign up for the newsletter. Actually, they can get the 6-hour workday playbook. If you're a work from home dad or work from home parent, you can still join if you are not a dad. I've got a playbook that synthesizes a ton of the stuff that we talked about today, and it's called the Work from Home Dad's 6-hour workday playbook to help you stop working nights and weekends and reclaim 10 hours of your life. And you can find that at wfhdads.com/playbook. WFH Dads looks really clean. I found going on podcasts, I have to say it's super slow for it not to be like.
I will leave everything in the show notes for people to look at. Make sure you check those out as well. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Joeri. This is fun.
Great. Before I leave you with my thoughts, or basically a couple of questions, I just want to say a huge thanks to Thom Gibson for sharing so bigly in this episode. Go connect with him and make sure you check out some of the links in the show notes. And while you're there, you can also sign up to my weekly newsletter, also called The Solo Source, where I share ideas like these in a written form. All right, so here's some thoughts. Working from home. I bet you a lot of people, if you are listening to this, you are working from home. Maybe for some people, this happened during 2020, 2021. Maybe you did that even earlier. But my question to you is, how do you keep sane working from home? Because that's where you live and you do other things, and then all of a sudden you work there as well. And if you have children around or maybe other family members, how do you balance that? What are you doing to make sure that kind of stays in harmony altogether? It's not easy. I don't even have any children, and I sometimes already find it quite hard balancing all the distractions around me of housework and lovely wife and people coming over and just things happening. So I'm just curious, how do you deal with that? And how do you balance that? Because, it's all about a bit of balance. Anyway, make it a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.